This place is so cool! Oh, hey there, everybody! You can probably guess based on where I am, but this week we're going to learn about the International Space Station. The timing is perfect after last week's mission about teamwork, because when it comes to the space station, or the ISS as some people like to call it, there's no better example of the importance of teamwork, not only within a space team, but also between other countries and space programs. Just think, the space station has been continuously occupied since November of the year 2000. That's 21 years of humans living in space. In fact, as of October 2021, more than 240 astronauts from 19 countries have visited our home in space. I could talk for hours about how cool the space station is, but first, let's learn some history.
This was once just a dream.
TTC go. TTC is go for launch.
2. Boost ignition and liftoff of Discovery and a team of explorers shaping their destiny.
An answer built by those who dared to ask, what if we were to channel humanity's knowledge and creativity into something truly revolutionary? What if we built a bridge between and above all nations? To jointly discover the galaxy's great unknowns, to endeavor to live and to work outside our planet for the benefit of all within. What started as an accord between two former rivals became a beacon of opportunity for the rest of the world.
We have ignition and liftoff of the Soyuz rocket, beginning the first expedition to the International Space Station and setting the stage for permanent human presence in space.
You ready for visitors?
We live this dream aboard the International Space Station.
Understand it's good to have you there and adjusting to your new home.
Adapting to life in space has been a process.
For the past 20 years, over 230 astronauts from all over the world have worked tirelessly together, boldly performing pioneering research and high-stakes spacewalks in the unforgiving environment of space. In this unparalleled orbital laboratory, circling the planet at 17,500 miles an hour, thousands of groundbreaking scientific experiments from over 100 countries have led to discoveries unachievable in the confines of Earth. From 250 miles up, an unbroken chain of residents have shared their view and their research with a generation eager to understand this higher plane. The space station is a symbol of humanity at its best, a shining example of international peace and collaboration in action.
Wow, isn't it incredible and inspiring to think of astronauts from all over the world living and working together in harmony? And all while floating in orbit 250 miles above the Earth. Pretty crazy, right? 250 miles up! How about a couple more impressive numbers? The International Space Station travels at 17,500 miles per hour. That's about 5 miles per second. That means the space station orbits Earth every 90 minutes, traveling through 16 sunrises and sunsets every 24 hours. At any given time, a crew of 7 international astronauts live and work in the orbiting laboratory. Our astronauts help us conduct science in space, enabling about 250 investigations about every 6 months. The unique microgravity laboratory has hosted more than 3,000 research and educational investigations from researchers in 108 countries and areas. We even study the astronauts themselves, so we can understand how the human body adapts to and changes in space. 8 spacecrafts can be connected to the space station at once. Some are for crew, some are for cargo. Astronauts and cosmonauts have conducted 244 spacewalks from the space station. The space station is 356 feet from end to end. That's 1 yard shy of an American football field. On-orbit software monitors approximately 350,000 sensors, ensuring station and crew health and safety. More than 3 million lines of software code on the ground support more than 1.5 million lines of flight software code. I have a feeling that all of you probably have a lot of questions about how astronauts live and work on the space station, and why it's such a great place to conduct science. Well, you're in luck, because I have a friend with the inside scoop. Kevin Metrocavage is Space Station Operations Manager at NASA headquarters, and he's joining us today to help us better understand what makes the ISS so special and what life is like when you live on a space station. Take it away, Kevin.
Thanks, Kate. I'm really excited about all the training and learning you're doing while at NASA. And as you know, I'm always up for talking about the International Space Station. The ISS may be humankind's most impressive engineering accomplishment. Built over the course of 13 years in facilities all over the world and assembled on orbit. All for the purpose of some amazing science that will improve life right here on Earth. We've demonstrated technologies that will be essential to our future exploration goals and enhance our ability to live amongst the stars. I was fortunate to have a front row seat in mission control for many exciting space station operations, and I can attest the value of teamwork in accomplishing these space station operations. It's tough work, but very rewarding, which allows us to have some fun along the way. For example, this one time, hold on, looks like I got a text from Kate with some questions, which is interesting because I don't remember giving Kate my cell phone number. But anyway, let's answer the questions. What type of training do astronauts perform before going to the space station? Since the astronauts are going to be on the space station from 6 months to a year, it's really important they understand the systems on board, such as the motion control systems, robotics, and life support systems. They should also understand the vehicle that they're going to and from the station in. And don't forget safety. That's very important when living on such a unique orbiting laboratory. Next question. What's the longest a NASA astronaut has stayed at the ISS? Station astronauts will typically stay on board for about 6 months to a year. The longest single duration stay at the space station is just under a year. However, stay tuned. This upcoming March, current NASA astronaut on board the station right now, Mark Vande Hei, will break that record. Also, Peggy Whitson, former NASA astronaut, set the longest cumulative time on board the space station at 665 days. What is recreation time like for station astronauts? The astronauts on board the space station are very busy. However, they do have some free time at night and most weekends. Typically, the astronauts like to just look out the window, take photographs, and marvel at our beautiful planets. Also, they tend to enjoy to listen to music, play music, and probably most fulfilling, talk to their family and friends at home. Is there Wi-Fi on the ISS? Sending commands to and from the space station typically goes through our tracking and data relay satellites. However, there is Wi-Fi on board that connects to the astronauts' laptops, tablets, some payloads, and some sensors on board. How long does it take to get to and from the space station? Crewed spacecraft can arrive to the station in as little as 3 hours, but depending on orbital mechanics, it can sometimes take up to a day and a half. That's a lot of "are we there yet?" However, the return trip is typically shorter, only taking several hours, but can be longer depending on conditions on the ground. You know, these are great questions, and I could sit here and answer them all day. But I happen to know a few folks who would love to say hello and are pretty familiar with the ISS as well. Let me see if they're available. Station, this is NASA headquarters. Hi, I know you're doing some exciting science, but do you happen to have a few minutes to answer some questions from some special guests? Okay, great. Let me patch you through. This is awesome. Let me introduce you to NASA astronauts Mark Vande Hei and Megan McArthur, coming to you from the International Space Station.
Hey everyone, I'm astronaut Megan McArthur. It's great to meet you.
And I'm Mark Vande Hei. We've been living aboard the International Space Station since April. I got here first in a Russian Soyuz spacecraft.
And I came about 2 weeks later on a SpaceX Crew Dragon called Endeavour. We've heard that you all are part of a LEGO space team, and we're super excited to know that the next generation of explorers are learning the knowledge and skills it will take to keep our space program running well into the future.
I agree. And we've heard you've had some questions for us, like, how do we sleep?
So as you've learned, we go around the Earth about 16 times a day. And so what that means is we see the sunrise and the sunset 16 times. So how do we know when it's bedtime? Well, we pick a time basically, and we picked Greenwich Mean Time. So all of the astronauts on board and all of the control centers on Earth can sync up to the same time, no matter what country they're in. So even though we see the sunrise and the sunset a lot of times during the day, we know that it's bedtime when the schedule tells us it's bedtime. Mark, can you tell these young explorers what it's like to eat in space?
It's really fun. It's really fun. So, Megan, will you hold the Earth for me?
I will.
Thank you. So, even beyond the ability to play with our food and use other people's mouths as target practice, and they get to work on their catching skill, we have to eat food in space so that we can exercise and keep our bodies healthy. And when we eat in space, because our food in our stomachs is in a free fall just like the rest of our bodies, it makes us feel fuller quicker. So it's really important we keep track of everything we eat so we make sure we're eating enough. So we talked about how much fun it is to eat. Megan, what's your favorite thing to do in space?
Science. Well, also flying, but science. So the reason that we're here and the reason that the space station is special is because it's an orbiting laboratory and we can perform all kinds of research experiments here. We're essentially in free fall. So we are falling around the Earth, we're in Earth's orbit, and that means lots of things are different up here, and we can learn a lot by studying those differences. So our bodies are impacted by the effects of it being in constant free fall, our muscles, our immune systems, even how plants grow, how flames work, how materials are created, how protein crystals grow. So lots of these things behave differently when we're in free fall. So by studying these differences, we can learn a lot about these processes, and that will help us reach farther into space, but also make life better on Earth.
Yeah, and also we can learn about technologies. In fact, we're doing some tests on technologies like a new toilet and life support systems that will help people get further into space than we've been and back to the moon to stay for a while and be in orbit for a long time. And I almost forgot, we've got to get back to that science. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks, Megan and Mark. It's always great hearing from you. Keep up the awesome work. And could you please stop trying to have pizzas delivered to the space station? We're getting a lot of very confused delivery people here. Hey, Kate, what did you think of that? Pretty cool to hear directly from an astronaut on board the space station, isn't it?
That was awesome! I could have listened to them talk about living in space all day. Imagine just floating around the space station, doing all kinds of awesome science experiments and learning incredible things. Eating ice cream, watching 16 sunrises and sunsets, space dancing outside the ISS. But primarily very serious science and space work. Yes, lots of important astronaut business is what I'd do if I were on the ISS. Anyway, speaking of important business, Dr. Jenny is here to give us a sneak peek at the missions we'll be working on over the next 2 weeks. Hey, Dr. Jenny.
Great to see you, Kate. I can't believe the amazing work all of you did on your first 2 missions. Let's take a look at some of that work. Wow, you're all so creative. You're going to be ready for launch in no time. I hope you're having as much fun on these missions as I am seeing what you come up with. And Kate, did I hear that a real astronaut talked to you today? From space? On board the ISS? Oh, it does not get any cooler than that. I heard they were looking for pizza. Now, next time you talk to them, I'm available to deliver if you can get me a ride. I mean, we all know how important it is to have pizza. But anyway, Speaking of important things, few parts of preparing for a mission are as important as the testing process. It is critical to the mission success to test all the systems, the equipment, and of course the spacecraft to make sure everything is safe and working exactly as it should. That's why next week in your mission, it's going to be focused all on testing. Now, Artemis 1 represents a huge part of the testing process. This uncrewed mission is the first step on the road to returning a human presence to the moon and sustaining it. This launch will be the first test of the SLS, the most powerful rocket ever built. It stands 321 feet tall and weighs 70 metric tons. I bet you're wondering how something that big ends up on the launch pad. Well, you're in luck because in Mission 4, you get to meet the crawler. NASA's crawlers are two giant tracked vehicles. How giant, you ask? Well, each one is as large as a baseball field. And what do? Well, these are the awesome machines that are how rockets and spacecrafts get to the launch pad. It's definitely going to be very cool these next couple of weeks. And I think I know just how we can get things started. It's time for another mini mission. Let's start thinking and talking about why it's important to test things out. So ask yourself, why is it important to try and test our ideas? How can we test them? And what do I do with the information I learn when I test them? I think a paper airplane is a great place to start. So I want you to create the best paper airplane you can, the one that flies the furthest and the straightest. Think about some ways to test your design. So you want to build it, then run a bunch of tests and use those tests to help you come up with the best design possible. Hopefully this mini mission gets you inspired and in the zone to do some awesome things in the coming weeks. Kate, I'll check back in with you and everyone in the next mission briefing because I can't wait to see what you all come up with next. See you really soon. How do I get that number to the ISS? I just know they need a teacher up there for something.
Thanks, Dr. Jenny. And if you do find that number, say hi for me. Well, I hope all of you are ready to accept your next set of missions and continue building to launch. Keep up the great work, and don't forget to join the discussion on the LEGO Education community and post on social media with #BuildToLaunch. See you soon!